In this video, I'd like to talk about the math question of the day for March 1st, 2023. And in this question, we have a function h, which is defined for all real numbers. And you can see its graph here in this blue color. And we need to find a reasonable estimate for the limit as x approaches 0 of this function h of x. So to answer a question like this, you do need to have a solid understanding of limits and their definitions, which you will learn in calculus. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video, see if you can work through this on your own, and when you're ready, unpause the video and we can go through this together. Now, assuming that you have attempted the problem, we can start working through this together. And if you do have suggestions for future questions of the day, feel free to leave those as a comment. Now, when dealing with limits, we need to be careful. They are fairly intuitive concepts. We are looking at essentially what is the function's value as x gets closer and closer to 0. But you'll notice that we can approach 0 from two directions. We can come in from the positive direction and travel along the curve, and it looks like at an x value of 0 or close to that, we start approaching -5. But if we approach from the left side along our curve, notice that the function h gets closer and closer to +5. So that's going to be an issue here. Since for a limit to exist, as x approaches, let's say some number a of some function, let me use a different letter. For this limit to exist, the limit as x approaches a from the right side of our function has to equal the limit as x approaches a from the left side of our function. So these have to match up for this limit to actually exist. If these approach different values, then we say that the limit does not exist. Now let's consider a simpler example so that we can make sense of all this notation. If we're talking about what happens as x approaches 4, if we come from the right side, then we can see that the function starts approaching a value of 0. And as x approaches from the left side, we can see that the function still approaches that value of 0. So this is one of those scenarios where the limits on the left and the right agree with each other and they approach the same value. And in this case, the function is actually defined there as well, but in terms of whether or not limits exist, that isn't important at this point. This could be a hole in the function and the limit would still be at 0 for that. So in this case, they agree. The limit on both sides approach the same number. So in this case, the limit exists and the limit is equal to 0. However, with our problem, we notice that problem that as we approach it from the right side, the limit approaches -5. But as we approach it from the left side, the limit approaches +5. So in this case, we can say the limit does not exist. So if it does not agree from the left and the right, we can assume that the limit doesn't exist here.